All right, y'all, we're starting this stream. We're going to try something out here. Trying to get these settings dialed in here. I almost had it. Now we didn't. We're back now. So I think we're live now, but I need to manually enter a lot of my settings, unfortunately. So give me 1 second to add my title and my description to my live. What's going on, everybody? It's Dustin with Black and Gold Pressure Washing. I've been having trouble all day trying to go live, but something's been wrong with my stream settings, but we figured out a different way to go live. So I'm here now. I appreciate anybody that pops in here. And as soon as I get this title and description and everything uploaded, including the thumbnail, we'll get going here in a minute. We'll let some people file in here as well. So basically, what I want to go over today is basically the resources that I found useful when I was starting my pressure washing business. So diagrams and pressure washing websites and photos and YouTube channels and just basically all the resources that I found useful when I was starting out that I think that you guys would also find useful. So I'm hoping that throughout this live, I'll be able to kind of comb through some of the source materials that I found when I was starting my business and building my trailer. That way you guys can also utilize those. And then after the live, I'll make sure to put them in the description of this video. So links to those things as well. And another thing to mention, we started a Discord for the channel, and so we can build a community on the Discord as well. You'll find that link in the description as well. And I should be able to plug that in the live chat now as I press these buttons. I'm hoping that it'll be dropping the Discord link. And then it should also be dropping our Amazon link here. This is to the storefront for anything stream related or filming or just little things that we've bought that we find on Amazon and purchase through Amazon. So check out my storefront there on Amazon. You'll find it useful. And then also a link to our Cigar City soft wash partnership. So this will be for anything pressure washing related that you see on my trailer, specific pressure washing products that I use, or equipment, machines, tanks, hose reels, all of those things you can find through the Cigar City soft wash link. And if you use code GOLD10 at checkout, you will be able to save 10%. So, and we'll also get a little bit of a kickback. So you'll help support the channel as well. But yeah, make sure to use code GOLD10 at checkout for 10% off of your entire purchase. So doesn't matter how much you spend, you can get 10% off. So that's kind of nice. And then anything else that I want to mention really quick? Let me think. We fine-tuned our description that we're going to be updating in all of our videos. Basically just making it more streamlined for the main things that we need to promote to y'all. So you'll be able to find and get connected to our other socials. You'll be able to find Roscoe's YouTube. He's laying down right here. I can show y'all a little camera, pop him on real quick. You can just see his little feetos right there. But also a link to our playlist for all of our full process videos. And then if you would like to donate, there's a donate link. And then eventually, well, tomorrow I'm waiting on approval from YouTube right now. But basically, you'll be able to become a member of the channel, which will be awesome. So then we'll start having little members only perks, whether that's a members only live chat. You'll get an emoji next to your name. You'll also get a badge next to your name. And then also we're going to have a members only Discord page that I'll be popping into frequently. So if there's anything that you'd like to ask me specifically, then that might be a good place to get my attention. So we'll also have that membership option. So a couple exciting things that the channel is going to be rolling out here soon. With that being said, I'm going to save these settings that I have locked in for this live. So now we've updated our thumbnail. The title of the live has now been listed. And then our description has been updated. So as this loads in, give it a second and let me see and make sure that it has updated. And once it updates, I'll jump right in here. So we had to kind of do a little backdoor way to go live today. For some reason, my live stream is not was not working today. My OBS, every time I try and go live, it would just schedule out the stream. So if you got a bunch of updates today from me saying I was about to go live, I apologize because didn't end up going live till right about now. We just got back from the vet. I took Roscoe to the vet today. He wasn't feeling too well. He's been dealing with some skin issues that we've been ongoing. It's been an ongoing battle trying to get those things figured out. So luckily he just had he got what's called a cytopoint injection. So that on top of his medication that he already takes for his allergies, hopefully those things will help with his skin. If that's not the case, then we will have to go on from there. But it's been his skin and his ears for the past like 2 months that we've been battling. So hopefully this, fingers crossed, will be the end all be all and he'll be feeling his normal self, because I can tell that he's not as perky as he usually is. So with that being said, I believe everything is pulled up here. Give me 1 second to just check the live control room and make sure we are actually live. What's going on, Daniel? Appreciate you popping in here. I just need a second to pull all this stuff up. It does look like we are live. Let me hear it. Appreciate you popping in here. I just need a second to pull all. Okay, yeah, I can hear myself. Let me turn my speakers on so that then I'll be able to hear it outside. Well, not outside, but without headphones on. Okay. And the studio is pulled up now, so we are good on that end. Just making sure all of our settings are correct. I'm not used to having to do it this way, so it's a little bit cattywampus compared to our normal. But yeah, we have a Discord now, so if anybody wants to join the Discord, I'm dropping that link now. So that'll be exciting for sure. So we'll start to build a little community in there. And then let me see. What else do I need? I need ground control to have chat pulled up. For some reason, the stream elements chat isn't wanting to work. Okay. So I should be able to see y'all now. And then if I drop these links, let me just double check that my multi-chat is working. Bada bing. Yes. Okay. And I see it. Cool. Now I'll be able to see y'all's chat. And we'll be able to continue on with the game plan with the live stream. So it was a little bit of hiccups there that I was dealing with all day. So I wasn't sure if I was even going to go live today. I was probably going to push it back to tomorrow. But we ended up going live. We're live now. So what's going on? Okay. And let me put this over here. Just trying to get some of these things pulled up that we'll use today before I show y'all. Let's go to black and gold. Videos, random files. Okay. So with that being said, I'm about to switch all over to the main screen here. Let me clear this. Okay. Okay. Y'all should be able to see this screen now. And I can see the chat on the screen now as well. I don't know why I feel like it zooms the camera in a ton. I think I cropped it a lot. But it's like all up in my face here. I feel like the camera on screen has got my face crazy. Okay. With that being said, let's continue on with what our game plan was. Okay, we'll start it right here. What's going on, everybody? Dustin with Black and Gold Pressure Washing. We're back again for another video. Today we are planning on going over the resource materials that I found useful when I was building my pressure washing business. There are a few things that I found useful website-wise, diagram-wise, and YouTube-wise that just provided those materials that you're looking for when it comes to like the layout of the systems and how they all work. Also how to properly plumb things, how to properly run like fuses and in the electrical side of things. And also just like how to locate certain places for resources when it comes to like SH percentages and yeah, just a lot of helpful materials that I found when I was starting out. So that's the game plan, is just to kind of share those with y'all so that you guys can hopefully find some benefit in them. If not, some of you might already know the information that I'm telling you, but if you don't, you might find it useful. So I'm gonna pull up some of these things, such as pressure washing basics. We'll go through some of these little photos that I have here. And these are just some of I can link some of these in the Discord as well. So with that being said, I have a Discord now for everybody to follow. So I'll drop it right here just so you can see it. But the Discord, I might link a lot of these source materials just so it's easier for y'all to find them. And I'm not pushing them on YouTube as heavy. So with that being said, this right here is just going to be, I barely use this, but this is like a downstreaming ratio. So based on what orifice you use for your downstream, will basically help you dial in what percentage mix you can get. But as you can see with like even an 8 gallon a minute machine, you're not able to get as strong of a mix as you want. It looks like you can get up to like a 3-to-1 mix. So what is that? That's like a 3. I don't know what percentage that is, max, but that's not the chart I really cared to show y'all. But here we go. Pressure washer products. I will plug them 100 times simply because I found a ton of my source material for actually being able to know what I'm building and talking about building. So I will pull them up really quick because they are a great resource for not only pressure washing products, but also for resources. They literally have a resources tab now. So they didn't used to have a tab for this, but they now do, it looks like, where you can find very helpful things when it comes to actually building the systems. So I utilized this website a lot when I was trying to figure out what all parts I needed and what it was all going to look like and sizing and all of that stuff. So what's going on, Eric? Did I get the hitch done? No, I didn't. I'm too sore to work on it today. Honestly, I did that workout stream the day before yesterday, and then I went crazy yesterday doing that, and my body is shot, brother. I wasn't even really able to turn around in bed today. Like my chest and my shoulders are on fire. So that I still need to get it done. I'm thinking I might just splurge on a 22 millimeter socket, so that I can just do it with a drill. You know what I'm saying? So that might be what I end up doing. But yeah, I didn't end up finishing it today, but I did drive the van today with it unfinished. It held on good. If y'all didn't catch that live yesterday that Eric's talking about, I went live yesterday mounting a hitch frame on the van that we are turning into our work vehicle. So the van now has a hitch that it's able to pull from instead of just the bumper hitch that was already installed on the van. So now we'll be able to pull the trailer a lot more safely. So we installed that yesterday. It took way longer than we thought, and it was way harder than I thought, and I didn't have the right tools to do it, but we got it done. So if you're interested in that live, check it out. But yeah, I need to go ahead and get the tools next time so that I can cry once and be done with it like Eric just said. But with that being said, let's get back to our resource materials. So this is going to be just materials that you'll find useful when you're starting your business, whether or not it's maintenance on the systems like this. It looks like they have a maintenance checklist for, okay, this is weekly, but you can track the record of like how many hours you've put on your machine when you need to do your next oil change, how to troubleshoot certain things that are happening with your pump. The general pump is the pump that I also have, and it looks like this is what the specific maintenance checklist is for. But you will find that a maintenance checklist is useful when it comes to tracking how many hours you have on certain pieces of equipment. So something you definitely want to do for your pressure washer specifically, and also maybe just the battery life of your batteries. That's something that I'm kind of running into now, is that I know that these batteries are 3 or 4 years old on my machine and my 12 volt, and they got to be changed probably pretty soon. So it's something that I've been keeping on in the back of my head, but a checklist or something that documents the time of purchase, when you bought something, when you put it into commission, and how long it's been running for will help you with the maintenance of the machines and the equipment. So that way nothing is wearing out on you or something is going wrong and you're not sure why. Making sure that you stay on top of the maintenance of the equipment will help with the longevity for sure. So like I said, the pressure washer pump, the pressure washer itself, oil filters, fuel filters, air filter, all of those things are stuff that you should be kind of tracking the hours on. You don't have to, be so specific, but you need to know, give or take a few hours, when's the last time it was done. That way, when the 50-hour mark comes or the 300-hour mark or the 150-hour mark, like you're kind of on top of it, or when you did it last. So every other oil change or however it may be when it comes to changing some of the other things like the oil filter and the fuel filter that don't need to be changed quite as frequently. Definitely just making a maintenance checklist where you're able to track those hours. Definitely beneficial. It's something that I have a Google spreadsheet for, but it looks like they have something here that you could have printed out. But if that's something that people are interested in, I'll definitely link that in the Discord. Just a maintenance schedule, especially for the pressure washer. It's your most expensive piece of equipment. You want to stay on top of it. You know what I'm saying? So then it looks like they also have the specific charts for your pump. So you'll be able to, if you need to order a specific part for your pump, find your pump number here, which you can find on your pump. I think mine is one of these like TSF221s or something like that. But this is useful when it comes to like if you need to order a new valve or a new oil seal or something, you're not trying to rack your brain for which pump do I have. You can literally come here, line it up with what pump model you have, and then you can see what exact part you would need to order if you need to order any of these parts or plan on replacing any of these things yourself, which I have not had to do personally. So Eric says he needs a checklist because he blanks out when you got a house. You want to get little red flags so you take picture of the same. Yeah, bro, that's honestly what you just mentioned with the little red flag so you take picture in the same spot. I have an idea for that I'm thinking about brainstorming with possibly like some sort of app creator or something. I don't want to spill too much tea, you know what I'm saying? But I do have an idea for that because I know what you're saying with lining up the photo exactly so that your before and afters translate over. Somehow a way to mark the exact location where you took the first photo. That way, when you look back on your before and afters, you can have some good side-by-sides that are almost identical and they match up. It's definitely useful when it comes to running your socials and being able to provide quality photos for not only your clients, but for potential customers. So definitely something that you want to make note of. So I definitely try and hit the same few spots when I take photos, especially of driveways, just because it's easy. Property line to property line on the sidewalks, from the end of the driveway facing the house, and then the entryway up to the door. Those are the simple mental markers that I've made for taking photos, but definitely finding some sort of way to make a mental note of where you took the before photo so you can take the after photo. It'd definitely help you on the back end. So also making little videos right when you get on the job, whether it's showing how dirty the property is or an after shot of it done, trying to take a video beforehand and then a video afterhand of the property will definitely provide some good social media video or like materials, you know what I'm saying? So it's something that I'm trying to get better at. I like, even though I film every time I'm on a job, it's hard to remember to film like vertically with the phone after taking photos and doing shorts and all that. So I'm trying to be better on staying on top of that. So if you guys see in the videos, I'm trying to do more when it comes to taking videos on the job. But definitely the more material you take of the properties that you take care of, the better you'll have on the back end when it comes to your social media presence. So just a little side note to make. Let's see what else they got here on this. I haven't been on their website in a while. Okay, this is a good one. Nozzle ratings. So this will definitely help you when it comes to the orifice size when you're trying to figure out what tips to use on your pressure washing surface cleaner, whether it's 0.25s or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? So the GPM of the machine, it looks like you have to match it up with, okay, it looks like they've got PSI, and then GPM, Okay, so this is 5.5, right? 2, 3, 4. Am I reading that correctly? Yeah. Okay, this is easier to read. But yeah, basically, point being, I haven't ever read this chart. I'm kind of looking at it for the first time with y'all. Point being, you want to make sure that you check your nozzle size and make sure your nozzle size matches up to the gallons per minute. So if you have a 4 gallon a minute machine, make sure that because your surface cleaner has 2 tips, you're dividing that by 2 and you're making sure that the nozzle size and orifice size are correct for the GPM that you have. And you might be able to match it up against this chart right here. I haven't used this chart, but I'm trying to just look at some of the materials that they've added since I've used their website. But basically, you just want to make sure that the degrees of the nozzles are correct when you're messing with the surface cleaner. The tips for the J-rod and stuff aren't as specific when it comes to the orifice size. You can kind of play around with tip sizes based on fan patterns that you want to achieve. But when it comes to spinning that surface cleaner bar, you have to make sure that it's like 0.25, I believe, is the angle for the surface cleaner. So I believe that my tips are, I don't want to tell you wrong, so don't let me tell you my tips. But I know that the angle of the degrees is 25. So that is definitely something you want to double check before you buy your surface cleaner, or if when you buy your surface cleaner, you check the tips before you chalk it saying that, oh, my pressure washer can't power the surface cleaner. Because I had an instance where I rented a 4 gallon a minute machine and tried to power my 8 gallon a minute surface cleaner and it wasn't working. And I thought for sure that it was nothing to do with the surface cleaner, but comes to find out it was the orifice size of the tips that were not allowing the surface cleaner to spin. So something you want to make note of before or after you buy the surface cleaner, but before you give it a go, make sure that you have the correct size tips. So using some sort of nozzle size guide or GPM guide where you're able to match up your correct GPM machine and PSI machine to the correct nozzle sizes. So let's see what else they have. I won't show you all the all flows. That's something that I've thought about looking into, but I won't show y'all that yet. Okay. It's a equivalent to like a 12 volt system. Well, it's better than a 12 volt, I think, but it uses the air, what am I talking about? Air compressor. I couldn't think of the name of it. So instead of a 12 volt, it's using like an air compressor. Okay, let's see if we can view in full screen with this one. Okay. This chart right here is everything that you need. I'm telling you, when you go to build your trailer and you want to understand the flow of a pressure washing system and how it works from start to finish, literally from the tip of the house to the tip of the gun, everything that you need, including sizes based on GPM, what to use, what not to use, what, you know what I'm saying? Literally everything is on here. So I'll break it down for y'all. Basically, if you look here, this right here is basically the no-nos and the do's. So do not use galvanized fittings. You don't want to use anything that's not going to be like, you want brass or stainless, basically. You can see it right down in here. But they basically are making sure that nothing is going to like rust out on you. And then no Teflon tape, because that's to make sure that no debris gets into the pump where everything is spinning at high pressure. You don't want anything etching away at the pump. So we're trying to eliminate any sort of debris that could get into the system. And then it says install chemical ejector minimum 3 feet away from the pump and remove when not in use. So this is just to prevent backflow in your system so that chemical doesn't somehow get pulled into the pressure washer. You don't want the inlet for your downstream system to be too close to the inlet for the pump, because then you possibly, when you come off the trigger, could backflow some of that product up into your pump and into your system, thus rusting it out sooner and all that. So definitely take their advice and 3 feet away from the pump. And it says to remove when not in use. With that being said, let's start with the flow of the system up here. If you take a look, this is going to be whatever your water supply is. So whether it's a customer's house or it's a commercial property, you're hooking up your garden hose to their spigot. So you need to make sure that the water hose supply is as big as you can make it. I think 3/4 of an inch is standard. My hose reel is 1 inch. So technically I could do a 1 inch hose, but 3/4 inch, which is like a standard garden hose size, is plenty as long as you have good flow from the source. So as long as the house has good flow and it's not like well water, or the commercial property has good flow, then you should be able to utilize just a normal garden hose. Okay. And then the flow of the garden hose. So the garden hose flows into your hose reel technically. So if you're doing a hose reel, it would run into the hose reel first before it got to this point. But another note that I see that they don't have here, between this garden hose here and where it dumps into this Hudson float valve, which I'll explain in a second, I have installed a Banjo inline filter. So it's just going to filter out any sediment and any debris that might be in the line coming from the house or the property, whatever property you're cleaning. Sometimes there's sediment buildup in the line. Sometimes there's rust from the pipes, whatever it may be. I'm filtering that out prior to it coming to the Hudson float valve. So it's just an extra precaution. It's just an extra filtration. Like I said, you're trying to prevent any debris that comes into the system so that it doesn't mess with your pump. Basically after it flows through the hose reel of mine and through my inline filter, it then dumps right here into this Hudson float valve. So basically this float valve just allows the water to fill up to a certain point in your tank before it then cuts the water source off. So once that float valve with the water level rises to a certain height, you then the float valve rises up, cuts the water off, and now the water is stopped right there at the Hudson float valve. That way your tank doesn't overflow. Now I will say, if the pressure is too high or your tank is too full for too long and the pressure is high from the water source, eventually it can overpower that Hudson float valve and thus causing your tank to overflow. I've had that happen a few times, but not many. For the most part, once my tank is full, if I know that I have plenty of water and I'm not going to be eating through all that water too quickly, then I'll actually personally go shut off the water at the source. And if I need more water, if I see my tank is getting less than half full, I'll then go turn the water source back on. So I found that that's the most useful way to eliminate too much water use, eliminate overflowing or overpowering that Hudson float valve. With that being said, let's move on to the water tank itself. I personally have a 200-gallon water tank. Depending on the size of the system is what size buffer tank you'll want to go with. So that will be up to the user's discretion, as well as fitting sizes. So based on whatever system you go with, if you're up to a 6.9 gallon a minute machine, you're going to want to go with a 1-inch bulkhead fitting. And that bulkhead is referring to what's at the bottom of your water tank that is going to flow to your pressure washer. So 1 inch if you're doing anything up to a 7 gallon a minute machine, 1.5 inch bulkhead fitting for anything 7 and up. So my 8 gallon a minute machine, basically 1.5 inch bulkhead. I personally went with, I believe, a 2-inch bulkhead into a reducer that then is a 1.5 inch hose. So I kind of went with a bigger bulkhead because I wanted a diversion where I could basically wash hands and all that. And I was kind of worried about if I went with the exact size of the bulkhead fitting that it was recommending and I still wanted a dump valve separately, that I wasn't going to have enough water flow. Basically, I didn't want any air in the system. So I kind of sized up that way. I made sure I have plenty of water coming in. And then if you follow the flow of the system over here, it then recommends either a 1-inch non-collapsible suction hose or 1.5 for a larger system. So I went with the 1.5 because I have the 8 gallon a minute machine, but based on whatever size your system is, go with whatever they're recommending. This is why I recommend this chart so much, is because it tells you the exact sizes for the fittings and the hoses. This is just, I'm telling you, this is primo when it comes to source material. Finding what size everything is for what fitting, for what part of the system, for when to, you know what I'm saying? Like locating the proper sizing for everything. you could spend all day trying to like source those answers, or you could look at one chart. You know what I'm saying? This one chart provides so much information when it comes to just building a system. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this chart if you're going to be building your own pressure washing system. Eric says he has a filter on his pressure washer as well. And that's where we're moving on to next. So after it comes out of the bulkhead down here at the bottom and it runs through your hose, whatever size that is, make sure it's a suction hose. You need something that's very like thick, or not thick, but like not collapsible, basically is what I'm trying to say. From there, it flows into either a PVC or brass fitting that will then go into your Y strainer. This is a banjo filter basically that allows for more filtration of the water prior to it getting to your pressure washer pump. So we talked about the first one that I have prior to it even getting into the tank. Then I also have a filter that runs prior to the pressure washer after it's left the tank. So this is just an added filtration. This is the main one that you want. Mine up here was an added filter because I kept getting like rust sediment deposits in the bottom of the tank. So I was like, why don't I just filter out prior to it hitting my tank just to add an extra layer of filtration. But this filter is a necessity. You want to make sure you're running a filter or your water through a filter prior to pulling it through the pump, just to make sure that there's no sediment or buildup. And as you can see, this one has a ball valve. Basically, this part of the filter right here would unscrew and you could take out the sediment deposit and rinse it out and everything. Or I have what they're showing right here, a tube with a ball valve at the end that I can then just open, and as long as you have enough water in the system, it'll push out any sediment that has built up in this filter. So it'll just, using the pressure of how much water is in the buffer tank, it'll kind of push it out that ball valve. So every couple of jobs, I'll just open that ball valve and let the water run through. And that way it dumps out any sediment that had built up in that filter over time. So definitely something to look into. You want the filter, possibly add the ball valve and the tube extra. The filters come with like a little screw top that you could replace with a fitting and a tube like this with a ball valve. And then moving on from there, after the water has been filtered, you're going to have hose clamps that hold all this stuff together. Make sure you're making a note of how many hose clamps you'll need. And then same thing, you're keeping the orifice size of the hose twice the diameter of whatever the inlet hose is. So whatever your inlet fitting is, which I sized up my inlet fitting for my pump itself, you want to make sure that whatever that size is double whatever its standard was. So you want to be providing twice as much water as needed for the system is point being, basically. That way there's no air pockets in the system. That is the main game plan. You want to make sure that there is no air in the system. Okay, with that being said, after it flows through the pressure washing pump, it then comes out the high pressure hose, high pressure 2-wire. Make a note of that. You see that it says 2-wire hose. My first 100 foot of pressure washing hose is 2-wire hose. It's just more durability. It's a stiffer hose. It's harder to work with and it's much heavier. But when it comes to longevity and it comes to durability, the 2-wire hose is much more durable, and it's not going to be utilized and dragged around the lot as much as like the other 150 foot of 1-wire hose that you use, but it provides more strength and durability. And with that being said, the high pressure hose that I use for the first 100 foot is also 1/2 inch. Everything running out of the pump is 1/2 inch. Coming out of the pressure washer is 1/2 inch. Coming out to the hose reel is 1/2 inch. Out of the hose reel into my high pressure hose, my first 100 foot is 1/2 inch. Then I size down with a coupler. So from a 1/2 inch to a 3/8 inch coupler, I then size down my hose. That way you're creating the maximum amount of water flow coming to the system as long as you can until you get to the tip of the gun. So you want to maximize how much distance is half inch basically. Not that you want to carry around a big whole half-inch hose, but the first 100 foot I have. You can even do the first 50 foot of hose half inch, and you would still be doing yourself a benefit or a service, whatever I was trying to say there. Okay, but if we look at this, it says never adjust the unloader valve right here, but my pump in specifically is the K7 unloader. You'll see that there is this bypass valve right here. Not all pumps are going to have this. So you need to make sure that if you're getting a pressure washer that has it, you understand that you need it, or understand this diagram that if you don't have an unloader like this, well, a bypass valve like this, then you don't necessarily need to pay attention to this portion of the diagram. But if you do have a system that has one, such as mine, then you want to make sure you know what size bypass hose you're going to use and how to plumb it up. And basically the bypass, when you're off the trigger of the gun for the pressure washer and the water is cycling through, normally it would just cycle through the pump like this over and over and over again, and thus causing it to heat up a lot quicker. Whereas if you have a bypass, the water that would be cycling through the pump is now recirculated back into the entire system and dumped back into your original buffer tank. So the water that would be heating up a lot quicker and cycling through that pump a lot quicker now has to travel all the way back through, get dropped down back into the fresh water. It cools it off a little bit, and fresh water is always being pulled through the pump. And so thus the system is staying cooler overall. And you're able to actually stay off the trigger a little bit longer than you would with a system that does not have that. So I found that I can stay off the pump for a while. I wouldn't recommend it, but I've stayed off the pump for upwards of, 20 minutes with it still running. And then I come back and the water's still pretty cool. I don't recommend that, but you can stay off a little bit longer off your trigger. So if you're talking with a customer, if you're taking a phone call, if you're taking before and after photos, if you're applying chemical, whatever it may be, so you don't have to go shut off the pressure washer just to turn it back on 5 minutes from now, look into something like a bypass valve. So with that being said, make a note of what's being said down here with the Y strainer must be a minimum of 24 inches away from the pump. So make sure that you have enough distance between where your pump is and where the strainer is. I don't know exactly why that is the case, but make note of the diagram and just listen to what they say. Obviously, they're professionals. They made a diagram. There's a reason they said it. Just sometimes you just go with it, whether or not they gave you a reason why. My opinion on why is maybe if it's too close, it might heat the plastic up or the metal up or something, or maybe too much suction will pull the mesh metal that the filter is made of. Those would be my two assumptions on why they recommend keeping it that far away from the pump. But if you know, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be interested to figure that out. Okay. With that being said, we went over the main diagram that I used when I was building my trailer. This gave me all the insights that I needed to know when it came to the flow of the system and how to work. Now, how you lay out your trailer and how it all works and how the length between hoses and all that, that is going to be up to the user's discretion and up to your build and your layout. So you'll need to make note of whatever your layout is going to be, and then apply this diagram then, just adhering to the distances between certain things, like no more than 24 inches from the pump. And then there was one more that we saw, I thought, that said made a distance note, but I don't see it here. But yeah, the float valve will come back into here with a 1/2 inch bulkhead fitting, and I have mine plumbed in from the top side. So this diagram is so useful. Make sure you guys take a look at it before you build your system. Even if you think you know everything, take a look at it, because you might see something that you weren't thinking of. Especially when it comes to just trying to make sure you order all the parts needed so that you're not making or waiting around for certain things, like something you couldn't pick up at Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? Like hose clamps and all that you could run up to the store and get. But like finding like the proper 1/2 inch tube or the right bulkhead fitting and stuff, some of those things you might be waiting on longer than... Hey, that's enough. longer than you would want to when you come to when you're doing your build. So trying to make sure you have everything purchased so that when you go to do your build, you can just build it seamlessly. That's the ideal scenario, you know? So doing the proper research prior to and finding the right sources to do that research will help in the end. That way you're not just building it blindly. So how's business been? A bit slow? What's going on, Jeremy? Businesses, yeah, last month was a little slow. We're starting to pick it up a little bit now. But yeah, it could always be a little bit busier. This pressure washing business is it's like one of my side hustles. So I don't put as much time and effort into drawing up business as I should, but it's also not the only source of income I have. So I kind of treat it like a glorified side hustle. I'm trying to be better at that though, and I'm trying to look at it like I need to build it to support the family. You know what I'm saying? So definitely need to draw up more business. It never hurts to have more business, but currently, business has been flowing a little slow. It was a little bit slow the last couple of weeks for sure, but I've got about 5 jobs on the books right now. We got a new client last week out of Brazil. So that's exciting. It's always exciting when you get some clients that aren't your typical client, you know what I'm saying? So this client manages a lot of rental properties over by Disney because there's a lot of Brazilians that like to stay as like families in these big mansions. So they're also sometimes owned by Brazilian families and people, but they have to be managed here in the States. So HOA still comes knocking, you know what I'm saying? Even though you're from Brazil and your company's based out of Brazil, like your house is here in the States and it needs to be cleaned. So I'm that guy for some of them, you know? I'm that guy. I have 2 Brazilian clients actually. But yeah, they're all vacation rental properties. So but yeah, we acquired a new client last week, so that'll be our new client. It's a 2-story roof wash, driveway cleaning, and sidewalks. So you'll see that video come out eventually. I'm a little behind on some of my videos. I'm trying to find the 12-volt pump system. Here we go, for roof cleaning. So let's take a look at this one as well, because this is what I used when I went to build the 12-volt system. So after I finished my trailer and I had everything set up, I didn't have a 12-volt system yet. I hadn't made the investment in the blend manifold yet, and I hadn't made an investment in the hose. I had the reel, I didn't have the hose, and I didn't have the manifold, and I didn't have the 12-volt or the battery or any of that stuff. So that was a couple months after I had my trailer built that I finally pulled the trigger on the 12-volt system. So whether you're using the Delavan or the Everflow system, the flow of the systems are the same. So whether you're using either of those pumps, the flow of the system is the same. That's what I was trying to say there. But understanding how to rig up a switch to a fuse and a battery and all that, like this helps with that because I hadn't done any electrical things. I didn't really know what I was getting into. So you need to make sure that you not only have a waterproof box for your battery, which I'll add that to my Amazon storefront. Let me go ahead and plug that. I've created some buttons on my Stream Deck now. So when I talk about something or a product, I can push it to y'all. So either on my Amazon storefront or my Cigar City soft wash link, you'll find a battery box. Those will be easy to find, but they will protect your battery when it comes to the elements. So something that I see that they don't have in this diagram that you definitely want to have. With that being said, it runs into a fuse and then into a switch. So with this switch, I have a marine grade switch, which these are all things that I need to be linking to y'all specifically, which I'll have a products list after this probably that I'll create. I have a trailer build list that I've linked to a few people, but I might link it with our specific links to our like promo codes and all that stuff. So you might get a little bit of a discount. If not, you'll find it on Amazon. Okay. So that is the battery portion of going into the pump itself. And don't knock me on what gauge wire this is. I'm not 100% sure what gauge wire this is. I can do my research and I can find out for y'all, but you'll want to check and make sure you have the right gauge wire when it comes to doing the 12-volt system. You want to buy an enclosed trailer from Cigar City one day? Yeah, I know. I was looking at some of their enclosed trailers. I'd love an enclosed trailer. That was going to be my original build, was an enclosed trailer. But then right before I pulled the trigger on that, I found out the HOA said no trailers and no commercial vehicles. So then I had to pivot to something that would fit in the garage. Otherwise, I had my eyes set on a tandem axle enclosed trailer, just because you can protect it from the elements. It looks cleaner. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't see your setup. People aren't going to steal from you as easily, like all that stuff. When you have it kind of out in the elements and open, like you're opening yourself up for more risk, I guess you would say. You don't like the HOA? I just got asked to be on the board of my HOA here in this neighborhood. I could change all the rules, you know what I'm saying? Like, all the only commercial vehicles and only trailers allowed in the neighborhood, no cars. But yeah, I'm probably going to say no to the board invite. I don't really want to be on the HOA. I deal with enough HOAs as it is. I like HOAs when it's not my neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? The HOAs keep me in business because when it comes to the management companies, the HOA send a notice, the management company sends a work order. So it works in that order a lot of the time. So I do like an HOA that stays on top of it, because they'll have me out every year. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to my own neighborhood, yeah, I don't like an HOA. I'd prefer to not live in an HOA community. You're renting from the in-laws right now? Heck yeah. Yeah, I technically, the house that I live in, my mom owns and I rent it. But I've lived in this house basically my whole life. Well, like since I was in middle school. And then my mom moved out. My mom got married and moved out, got her own place. And then I ended up going to school here in Orlando. So then this was technically it's a house. I had a house while I was in college. And then I continued to rent it after college, after I started the business and everything. So that's our current situation. So I definitely like to buy a house at some point, but right now is not the time to buy a house. So currently we are also renting. With that being said, let's move on to the water side of the 12-volt system. So if you look over here, this is what your buffer tank is going to be. So, okay, wait, this is actually your chemical tank right here. And this isn't showing the blend manifold either. So this isn't necessarily the end-all be-all flow of the system. I'll kind of try and fill in the blanks, or they might have another diagram down below that shows it a little better. But basically, this would drop into whatever your chemical tank is. So mine is a 55-gallon vertical tank. But whatever size your chemical tank is, you're going to have a bulkhead. Well, I personally, unless you're doing drop tubes, you can do drop tubes as well. But I have a bulkhead on the top of mine. Don't do a bulkhead on the bottom, just because it's SH. You don't want to risk there becoming a leak for some reason, and then all the SH going everywhere. I had a crack in my tank and it was a nightmare. Not because I had a bulkhead at the bottom, but just because I had a crack in my tank, and bleach getting all over your stuff is annoying. So make sure you plumb it from the top if you're going to do anything with when it comes to the chemical side. I try and keep everything plumbed from the top on my chemical tanks. And then that is going to pull basically before it gets to this 12 volts, this pump right here you see, both from your buffer tank, which you don't see right here. Maybe I can do a little sketch for y'all. Let me see if I can pull up the paint and see how sloppy I am with it. Let's see how sloppy we are with this. Okay. So right here, you're going to have, this will be your water tank. This will be your SH tank. SH. Okay, this is your water tank. This is going to be your blend manifold. Don't knock me for the drawings. Okay. This is your blend manifold. out of your blend manifold would come, let's title this, it's hard to draw with the mouse, 12 volt. So this is your 12 volt pump, and then this would go to your hose reel. However you have it set up. So we'll just try and make this look like a hose reel a little bit better. Let me redo that part. Okay. Okay, and this will be your hose. Hose. Oh my gosh, it's hard to write like this. Reel. Okay. So you'll have the bulkhead plumbed up to your water, and you'll have a bulkhead that's plumbed up to your SH here. And then also a little note to make with this blend manifold. I'll show y'all a little secret. That way you can, it's not a secret, but that way you can flush out your 12 volt system. You'll actually want 2 bulkheads into the water tank for that. So you'll have another bulkhead into the water tank. This one will flow to the, let's make this one the water right here. So this will be water. This will be SH. This middle one is soap right here. And currently I still batch mix my soap, but basically the tube will come from here. It'll go down to the SH side. Let me make that a little bit better. It'll come down to this SH side. Okay. And then this extra tube that you're running off of your water tank, you're going to want a 3-way ball valve right here. I have mine mounted to the back side of this blend manifold right here, but you're going to want a 3-way ball valve that you're allowed to have water connected to right here. Let me just think in my head. It's water, what? And then, okay, yeah, water. And then this one flows to the SH tube. And then this one flows to the 12 volt, right? I might have to go look that up. Look back at that. But basically, let me tell you what it's doing. This is now when you flip the ball valve, you're directing it from pulling from the SH valve and pulling from this SH tube right here to now you're redirecting what it's pulling from, and it's basically pulling double water. So it's going to be pulling from its original bulkhead over to its water side of the blend manifold. And then now your SH side has now turned into another source for water to pull through. So that water will now pull through this system once again, and that will flow into the 12 volt system, thus allowing you to rinse it out with water. So you don't have to do that, but I highly recommend it. Otherwise, you'll have to drop your SH tube into the water tank or vice versa, whatever it is. So definitely want to rinse out your 12 volt. I recommend at least 5 minutes. I always do it on the end of my jobs. You'll see it in all of my videos. I'll usually draw all the chemical through the tube until it's pulling water once I flip the valve, and then I'll let that run and flush out the system for about 5 minutes. So that will allow for you to be able to properly flush out the system. So what that diagram wasn't showing is basically this blend manifold system and being able to plumb it up. So it skipped this part of it. So if you definitely want to do a 12 volt and be able to meter your product from more than just 0 to 100 and anywhere in between, basically, you can do a blend manifold. That will allow you to do roof washes. That can do house washes. You can do driveways with that. Basically, you can apply chemical of any strength with a blend manifold in a 12 volt system. So highly recommend it, and definitely a useful source of understanding. You want to understand the 12 volt system, especially when it comes to the ball valve and making being able to flush out the system. That was something I wasn't really understanding when I started this build, because I was going off of this diagram and I wasn't understanding how people were flushing out their systems. So this diagram doesn't necessarily show those, but it does show you the sizes of the hoses and stuff. So we're talking 1/2 inch inlets all the way, 1/2 inch, and then all the way down until you get to your hose. So those are things to make a note of. The hose itself, I believe I am running a 5/8 Don't mark me on what my hose size is, but the hose reel is a 1/2 inch. So everything all the way up until the outlet of the hose reel is 1/2 inch. I'll have to check back for the hose size and what that is. But once again, do not use Teflon, use pipe thread sealing compound or liquid Teflon. And I think that's pretty much everything on the 12-volt system that I wanted to talk about. And so we went over the diagram for the high pressure system if you're building it, and the 12-volt system if you're building it. And I can draw up a better diagram in the future if y'all would found that useful. Just let me know and I'll draw one up. Or they might have one down here, to be honest. I just haven't scrolled far enough down probably to see. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, here's one with the, it's not going to show you the 12, it's not going to show you the blend manifold, but it will show you how to do the flush valve. Okay, there we go. View it in full screen here. Okay, here it tells you what gauge wire as well. 10 gauge wire, so make note of that as well. I wish I went with the 12 volt instead of the P40. I've heard the P40 is overkill for a lot of things. So I honestly, they didn't really have, they had the AR45 when I built my 12 volt back then. The P40 was still pretty new. But I've thought about the P40, but I don't do enough heavy flow jobs to need it. Everything I saw was that it was like a little too much flow for roof washes. So I was doing a lot of roof washes at the time, and I was already having trouble with having too much runoff. So I didn't want another system that was going to have too much flow, basically. But I'm sure with like experience and time, you can dial all that in and get it. And then you have a nice P40 system. So the P40 system is definitely an upgrade from the 12 volt, but I think that the 12 volt allows you to get majority of the things done that you need to get done without having to need something like a P40. The 12 volt can do everything else, but it can't shoot distance as much as like a P40 could. So if you're cleaning something like a 3-story or something where you're having trouble reaching, or you might need a ladder with the 12 volt, the P40 system probably would eliminate that factor. So there are definitely benefits to having one. But 10 gauge wire, it looks like. And then let's see. I thought this was showing us the flow, but it's not. I thought it was showing us the dump valve. That's what I was looking for. Or the flush valve, whatever you want to call it. Okay, another resource here. Another strong resource. Let's take a look. Surface cleaner. This is a surface cleaner we use on a daily basis. The Whisper Wash Classic. These cartridges do need to be replaced every now and then. I've replaced mine once, and I've replaced my bar once. Making sure that you understand how to replace the cartridge. You don't necessarily need to know each individual little piece like this, because now they sell the cartridges like this where you can just drop it in easily. Hey, take it easy, Eric. Appreciate you stopping by, homie. Saw you yesterday, saw you today. And I saw your pressure washing system. It's nice, man. You got everything you need in that little setup. So sick, brother. Appreciate you popping in that Discord as well. And while we mention the Discord, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in the chat as well. So if you guys haven't joined the Discord, join up. You can share your builds there, share some before and after photos, or any comments, questions, concerns, whatever you have, you know. Share it in the Discord. That's what it's meant for, is for the community. So now we have a place for everybody to hang out and chill. You know what I'm saying? That's not on YouTube necessarily. Okay, but with the Whisper Wash Classic, this diagram allows you to understand just how the cartridge works, where the O-rings lie, because the cartridge does come with some O-rings. You need to understand that there is I forget what they call it. Let me see. I think it's this number 10. Yeah, the quad seal O-ring. This O-ring right here actually sits in the surface cleaner, not on the cartridge. So when you take out this cartridge, make sure you take out the old quad seal, put a new quad seal in, because that is not something that is in the cartridge. It comes loose in the cartridge container. But understanding the size of like look at the surface cleaner, you know, and if you wanted to understand what size this hose is, or if you wanted to change out this and make it a 1/2 inch or whatever it is, any customizations that you might want to do, you can refer to this diagram and also scan these QR codes to take you directly to their website, which will show you not only the description of the product, but also the recommended like values for pressure washing systems that you need to power the specific equipment. So the Whisper Wash Classic, I believe, is a minimum of 4 gallons a minute, but they do have larger surface cleaners that do take more GPM than necessarily an 8-gallon would. So they have, let's see if we can show them. They have some surface cleaners that get pretty big, y'all. Like some of these big ones, the Little Big Guy or the Mondo. These are all ones that I've looked into, but once you look further into the description, you'll notice that 8 gallon a minute a lot of the time is the minimum value needed to power those systems. So with that being said, these are all valuable resources that I used when I started my pressure washing business and system. When I came to do my build, I started Googling, truck and trailer builds, started looking at photos, started trying to understand, the systems and how they flow. And then once you start getting down to the nitty gritty of like, okay, what do I want size wise and what do I want tank wise and layout wise and all that, you need to start understanding the sizing for the fittings, the hoses, the distances, the, diameter, all that stuff, the orifice sizes, all the specifics. When you go to actually understand and build the system, you'll need more than just looking at a photo like this. You know what I'm saying? So being able to have those resources is invaluable. So this is where I found a lot of my source material when it came to doing my build. And it just kind of filled in the blanks that I couldn't find the answers to on YouTube or on other forums or websites, Facebook pages, all that stuff. Or if you're having to like specifically ask somebody a lot, you kind of start to feel annoying, whether it's a guy that's in the industry a little bit ahead of you or whatever it may be. Like you kind of have the anxiety of asking too many questions, or you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be annoying. So being able to refer to something like this before you go and ask a question, because some of the questions are answered here in these diagrams. So definitely something to look into. And I would recommend highly, highly, highly looking into utilizing these diagrams when you go to do your business and your build. So I highly recommend those. And I think I'm going to call it there on the live. It's a nice, quick little 1-hour stream. We knocked out all of our resources that we used when we did our pressure washing build. And I will also link that website in the description of this video. If you have not, check out our Discord, join it if you haven't joined it. Check out our Amazon storefront for anything that comes to stream related stuff or little products that we use on the pressure washer itself that we might not find on Cigar City. You can check it out on our Amazon link. But for the big ticket items, the tanks, the pressure washers, the hose reels, all that stuff, go ahead and check out our Cigar City soft wash link right here that I just linked for y'all. And the Cigar City link will provide you a promo code GOLD10 at checkout for 10% off of anything that you purchase. So if you buy your big pressure washer, you buy all your hose reels or your hoses, whatever it may be, make sure to use code GOLD10 at checkout and you will get 10% off. And I get a little bit of kickback, so you're helping support the channel. So trying to be transparent with everybody about everything and trying to share all the knowledge that I learned while I was making and doing my build, so that you guys are able to find those materials quick and easy and not have to do a bunch of like crowdsourcing, you know what I'm saying? And trying to find a bunch of different materials to make it work or understand it. You can find it all here. So with that being said, I appreciate anybody that joined up today. I had a little bit of a hiccup with the stream earlier. Tonight, I will be live vertically. If you guys are interested in seeing me cook, I'm cooking some steak dinner tonight. So if you're not here for the pressure washing and you're here for the steak tonight, what's up? But yeah, I'd love if anybody that's here right now popped into the live later. That'd be awesome. So with that being said, appreciate everybody. Take it easy and catch me on the next one, y'all. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. Take it easy. Oh, I didn't connect. Here we go. Let me sign out one more time. Peace.